Hi, Farmer Jason here at Wave Fruit Farm. It's a little after 3 in the morning. Yesterday they declared a frosted warning at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So with our strawberries being in bloom, even though a lot of them have died, some of them have started reblooming. And so I had some active blooms out there, and frost can be a very bad thing for that. So behind me, I have our irrigation pump, and we rapidly set everything up. We started yesterday about 1:30, they put out the warning, and by 8:30 last night we had it set up. I would have taped some of that, but literally it was just crazy trying to get it done. So next time we set this up, I'll make sure that I do a video on it, but I'm gonna show you, we're gonna fire it up. My phone says it's 35 degrees in the dips. I have the one weather app. I can check people's backyard weather stations, and in this valley, people have about 8 of them. On the hills, up on top of the mountain, I did check, it's still 42 degrees, but down here in the dips, I'm actually starting to see a wee little bit of frost all the way down by the stream, which means that it is starting to get cold. It's only getting colder as it gets closer to morning. Normally the lowest point in the day is right at the sunrise, which now this time of year is almost between 5:30 and 6 a.m. So it's a little after 3. I'm gonna fire this thing up. I'll be honest, sometimes when it's cold like this, it doesn't like to start and everything else, but we're gonna try to fire it up. I couldn't find a volunteer at 3 a.m. to hold the camera for me, so I'm gonna shut you off, then I'll turn back on, shut off, and we'll go through it a little bit together here, but I gotta move around and don't have a volunteer at 3 a.m. I don't know why, but anyway, we'll be right back. All right, this is not a normal part of it, but the very first thing I had to do was put a little jumper wire here up to the solenoid on the diesel pump. Yesterday, this was part of what made life so stressful, is the fact that my battery was dead, and then the solenoid on the pump wasn't working correctly, so we had to figure out a way to get that all rigged up so that we could fire it up. So now what I'm doing is I'm gonna come over, and this bad boy doesn't like to start a whole lot in the morning, so we'll see how life goes here. I'm gonna hit all my switches. And now we're gonna hold this one in. Woohoo! Fire it up! What we're gonna do is we're gonna let it warm up a little bit. And then what I gotta do, and I'm gonna have to set the phone down to do this one, is I'm gonna throw in that lever and start pumping on that. And when it does, where I'm at, I'm gonna let it warm up because it gets a little smoky. Where I'm at is right next to our spoken pond. I don't know if you can see the steam coming off the pond. The pond water is a lot warmer. The pond water is a lot warmer than what the air is, and so it's all steaming. There's my machine running. So I'm gonna go over and pump that handle, and then we'll show you what I'm gonna go over and pump the handle. And then we'll see what the machine does. All right, we're pumping. All right, so I didn't get the best chance to explain what was going on there. What happened is I had to pump on that handle to get the pump primed. That machine, all that big motors does is run a pump to push water. And so that pump needs to have water in it to pull more water. So by pushing on that handle, I draw water up through the big pipe into that pump and then push it out through here. And so what we've done now is we've come out to the fields where the water's just starting to come up. So I don't know if you can see this in my headlights or not. Let me turn off the light. There is a pump, there is a spot right out here where the sprinklers are just starting to wake up. So you can see It's just starting. There's a wagon there to the left, and then over on the right, you can start to just see the sprinkler starting to wake up. It takes a while for all of the water to make it all the way up here. And so we're just gonna we're gonna drive around and make sure that all the water is making it to all of it. Sometimes these pipes are big, they're hooked together. We have hundreds and hundreds of connections with our aluminum pipe. I'll show the aluminum pipe here in a little bit whenever it's a little bit easier to see as we start to get towards daybreak. But you know, what the goal is to get the water out there. I did just check the temperatures. We're still above freezing, so this is all just sort of as a precaution at this moment in time. But we spent all the time setting the system up last afternoon, and I figure it's better to get it started than wait for it to get below freezing and then have a problem and not be able to get it up in time. So even though right now we're still like 36 degrees, if it's 36 at 3 a.m., you know, chances are we're gonna be sub-freezing before we hit daybreak. So we're gonna drive around now and just watch all the sprinklers come up. All right, so what we're doing now is we're running around trying to make sure that all of the jets are working. So right behind me, and I'm gonna pause and maybe you can hear it. The water's starting to come out, and what I like to do is make sure that I get all my pipes pressurized, all the sprinklers working, and then we're gonna head back in. And that machine, like a lot of diesel engines, how you regulate it is by the amount of RPMs it does. The higher the RPMs, the faster the pump's gonna work. So we start off on a low RPM just to get everything working. And then what I do, because at the far end of the one line, it'll be really weak at this RPM. But I don't like to push too much through it too fast, because sometimes with all that air and force coming through it, boom, 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 the pipes will blow apart. And so what I've got to do is get all the pipes running, and then what I'm going to do is turn the RPMs up. All right, we're now going to take the pump up. All my jets are running. So we're going to take the pump up to final operating RPMs. All right, so here we are out in the field. Now the sun is starting to come up. You can see all the sprinklers going around and the sunrise in the back. It's about 5:30 in the morning. If you also notice, we've had a lot of clouds move in. So it dropped down to just right around freezing for just a little bit, right around 4:30, 5 o'clock. I saw a little bit of frost forming, and now the temperature is actually starting to rise. Even though there's still a little bit of frost on the ground, the temperature is actually starting to rise right now because of the cloud cover. The cloud cover is very important in predicting freezes and frosts. Without the cloud cover, it gets much colder. Once you have the clouds moving in, it gets a lot warmer very quickly. So that's what's actually happening. We'll leave the system run for a little bit more to make sure that it's above freezing. One of the things that I think that I might have forgot at 3 o'clock this morning is to explain why we're doing what we're doing. So what happens is, whenever it's supposed to get really cold, that can possibly damage the little strawberries. On some of our previous videos, I talked about all the damage. I talked about all the damage that was done to the strawberries through the previous cold snap. That cold snap was too cold to even try to stop the damage from occurring, so we did not do this. But what we're doing tonight is the fact that with the cold, if you put water on them, you can give the berries a couple extra degrees of warmth. And so whenever it's going to be really close to freezing, what we'll do is we'll put water over all the strawberry plants, and what that does is it'll give, there's two reasons it warms it up. First of all, the water's coming out of our irrigation pond, and the irrigation pond water is going to be somewhere around 50 to 60 degrees. So you have that extra heat going out there. Second of all of those start turning up the air, which doesn't allow the frost to settle on the ground as much. And third, there's actually an exothermic reaction when if you get cold enough that you start forming ice. As ice forms, it actually gives off a little bit of heat, and that heat actually goes in and warms the strawberry. So that's the three different ways that the water will help our strawberries keep from freezing. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. We're out here this morning. Hopefully we've protected enough of the strawberries, and hopefully that they keep reblooming, as we talked about in one of the previous videos, so that we can actually do something with strawberries this year. So thank you all for watching. We'll keep you updated on what the strawberries have done and what they do, you know, and what they continue to do. And we'll see how all this turns out this year. Hopefully we can have strawberries, but they are going to be late. You know, everything's still in bloom, and we're almost here into June, and it's ridiculously cold out here this morning, I can tell you. So they're not growing a whole lot tonight. And so we just need some nice, consistent, warm weather to take these things from bloom up to finished strawberries. All right, thank you all. See you later.